There we go. That should be good. We're live. Welcome to Media's Live Show, episode 32. I kind of lost track of time there. I was gathering up some props for today's main discussion topic that I just want to show off. Uh, First and foremost, I should probably tweet this out. Let's see, I already shared it on Twitter or on Discord rather. Now and we'll talking shortly. All right. Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to Media's Live Show, episode 32. It's start of the new year. It's the first new show of the new year. And I kind of debated like back and forth between two different topics that I wanted to discuss. First is obviously the one that I chose, why dinosaurs. We'll get to that in a bit. I do want to touch on the other topic that was almost the main topic for this week, which is politics. The politics going on right now. So we had two major things kind of break out in the last week. First is the Minnesota situation with the fraud. I've spoken on this on Twitter, and yeah, so a YouTuber kind of exposed a childhood care center in Minnesota for fraud. He like went there and they weren't open, and when he tried to ask questions, it didn't go well. And then a lot of other people started blowing the whistle on these sorts of things, and it turns out that there's a lot of people uh, who have been defrauding the Minnesotan government uh, by getting like taxpayer funds in order to facilitate these childhood care centers that then don't accept clientele, or like they won't open until they'll be open like 5 p.m. to 10 a.m. or yeah 5 p.m. to like 10 p.m. or something, like just bizarre hours, like it's a whole situation. And people have been trying to flip flop, like, oh, it's not happening, or it is happening and it's a good thing, or that this YouTuber lied, or uh, that it's just drop in the bucket, that this is an isolated incident. Well, the innocent never run. The reason why I actually wanted to bring this up is because a couple days ago, Governor Tim Walz, who was so close to being our vice president, except he kind of wasn't because Kamala Harris got blown the fuck out in the election. But Governor Tim Walz is now suspending his campaign because of these allegations, and he's trying to like write it off as a right-wing conspiracy theory. And it just kind of goes to show the main problem I had with Kamala Harris as a campaigner and as a candidate, uh, way more so than even Joe Biden, was that she is a fucking coward. She is a gutless moron. Like this is why she only got 1% of the vote in the Democratic primary back in 2020. When she is a gutless moron coward. Uh, she does not have a spine. She does not have what it takes to even do an interview with softball Joe Rogan. So why on earth would anyone believe that she could stand up to people like Putin or Xi Jinping or Maduro? And that's the other thing I wanted to touch on, which is the Venezuela situation, because I see no downsides to this. And I've looked like, oh, American imperialism? Like, no, this is Monroe Doctrine back in action. This is anti-colonialism. Like, removing Maduro is an act of anti-colonialism. Because Maduro was firmly in the pocket of China and Russia and doing business with them. And people are like, oh, does this mean that this is going to embolden Russia to attack Ukraine? Russia's already attacking Ukraine. Nothing. International law might as well not even exist. Because no one's enforcing it. Like, what's the downside here in the Venezuela situation? A firm finger waggling from the United Nations? Blow me. Russia emboldening their attack on Ukraine? If they could, they already would have. China assaulting Taiwan? Again, on the Taiwan situation, I'd like to see a motherfucker cry. Because China is the one that built Venezuela's defense system. China is pissing their pants right now over this. They condemn Trump, they condemn the attack, and they are terrified because this is the first time anyone's ever exposed their bullshit. Exposed how much of a paper tiger they are. They're a Fabergé egg of a world power. Shiny on the outside with all their LED lights and tall buildings and massive population, but you scratch beneath the surface, it's empty and hollow. They haven't invaded Taiwan because they don't have what it takes to invade Taiwan. They don't have the chutzpah. They don't have the technology. It's all fake. China is a fake empire. And the Venezuela situation proved it. They built the defense system that Maduro used to try to defend himself, and it got shut down in hours. We were in and out of there overnight without a single U.S. casualty. And as far as I've heard, no Venezuelan civilian casualties either. The only casualties were Venezuelan personnel and Chinese mercenaries, basically. And this strengthened Trump's desire to take Greenland, which I'm against. I don't think Greenland needs to join the United States. I would like to see an independent Greenland. That's my stance. I would, again, like Monroe Doctrine, Europe has no business being in North America. European powers have no business being on this side of the planet or ruling over anything in this side of the planet. I'm against French Guiana. Guiana. I can never pronounce it right. I'm against the French being in South America, and I'm against Denmark owning Greenland. And I'm against further Chinese influences here in the States and across the rest of the continent. I'm against China. I live in Missouri, so one of the big issues we've been facing in my state is Chinese businesses buying up farmland. I'm against that. No, get China and Russia and the UK and Germany and Denmark and France out of our fucking hemisphere. So yeah, I'm a strong proponent of the Monroe Doctrine. I'm a strong proponent of anti-colonialism. I'm a strong proponent of the people who live in a country being the ones who run things. Being the ones that make the decisions, whoever they may be, even if they've immigrated. They've immigrated and fully assimilated, then they should adapt to the surroundings. I am against people trying to move and then trying to make their new home like their old home. Like, to all the Mexican immigrants, I love you so long as you are trying to become more like American and trying to not make America like Mexico. This is one of the reasons why Florida is getting more and more red is all the Cuban immigrants. All the Cuban immigrants are moving from Cuba to Florida, and they are dead set on not allowing Florida to become more like Cuba. Now, going back to the Denmark situation, like everyone's all like, "Oh, we should be more like Denmark. We should be more like Denmark." I love Denmark. Denmark's my favorite European country. I'm a Danophile. I made one of the main characters of my book series Danish. And the people who say that are just dumb because they don't actually understand what it is that makes Denmark Denmark. They don't understand the actual policies that they have in play there. They have a large welfare state, but it's completely like capitalistic funded. Like they are not a socialist country at all. They actually have more business freedoms and stuff than America does. They are less socialist than we are. They don't have the same kind of regulations. They don't have the same like cultural melting pot. They're a homogenous country. And they're a small country. Like they can actually afford to have the larger what we would equate to Medicaid is their like it's universal healthcare. They don't actually have universal healthcare. They do have free healthcare, but it's not universally free. You have to qualify for it. And it's an option. It's an option you don't have to take because it only gives you like bare minimum coverage. Like if you want something else, you actually have to pay into it. And that's how it should be. Like they do it very well. And part of the reason they are allowed to do that is because they don't have to pay for their defense. We do. America pays for their defense. Like in economics, he who pays the money owns the thing. America does effectively own most of the planet by that logic. You want us to be less influential? You want America to have less influence? You want America to have less of a say-so in what goes on in the rest of the planet? Defend your fucking selves. Build your own military. Defend your homeland. That's what Ukraine is doing. Yeah, they're begging America for more funding and more weapons and stuff, and I'm against us being involved in that war. But, like, they at least have their own bodies to throw. They're not just cowering and waiting for NATO and the UN and America to fight their battles for them. Like, no, they have their own boots on the ground. They have their own stuff that they're doing. They have their own means of defending, and they've been fairly successful at it. Like, again, like Putin actually did try a couple years ago to send like his own special forces unit to abduct Zelensky from the Ukraine, and it didn't work. The Russians got slaughtered. Oh, this is gonna embolden countries. Maybe someone should try to do it to America. Again, I wish a motherfucker would. I wish Russia or China or one of these nations would try to sneak into Washington, D.C. and abduct President Trump. I want to see them get their asses kicked. Because that's what would happen. Like, Russia would send in their drones, or China would send in their troops, and they would get slaughtered. It would be like the fucking opening to Saving Private Ryan, but like a million times more American. That's all I want to say about the politics of the situation. Just people are so wrong. People are so dumb about it. Yeah, people are wrong about the Monroe Doctrine. Like that, I saw a tweet earlier today where like, oh, the Monroe Doctrine, he spelled Monroe wrong, is all about like American ruling over the Western Hemisphere for 1,000 years. Like, no, it was never about that. It was never about ruling anything. It was about saying, hey, Mexico, hey, Spain, because the Monroe Doctrine was made in response to Argentina, Chile, and Mexico all gaining their independence from Spain during Monroe's first term. So during his second term, James Monroe and his then Secretary of State, John Quincy Adams, drafted the Monroe Doctrine to declare that, hey, we will defend Mexico sovereignty, Argentina sovereignty, and Chile sovereignty. And anybody else who wants to declare independence from the European powers on this side of the planet in the Western Hemisphere, they will have America's support. And we will defend that under threat of American action. Like if Spain tried to take back Mexico, if Portugal tried to take back Brazil, if France tried to take back Haiti, they would be incurring the wrath of the United States military. Which was a bold fucking claim because we did not have what it took to actually enforce the Monroe Doctrine when we first put it into practice. Uh, we actually got help from Britain to enforce it. The British Royal Navy were also like kind of in their bag about anti-colonialism as well, or at least anti-France and Spain colonialism. And they're like, "Hey, yeah, this fits in with what we want to do with France and Spain. So we're going to help America enforce decolonization here in all the countries that aren't ruled by us." Kind of a weird. Britain was very pragmatic about it. It was very much like, how does this benefit us? How can we make this benefit us? But that's geopolitics for you. Everybody's got an angle. But now I wanted to talk about and I want to actually pull it up.
The visuals are...
Sorry. Display capture. So, big thing I did actually, the most of my time this week was spent editing. Uh, we recorded several podcasts over the past week and a half, and I've been working on the Volume 1 retrospective podcast. I got about like 30. I think I got like an hour left an hour's worth of audio left to go through that. Um, then we recorded the Volume 2 retrospective a little over a week ago. We recorded the Volume 3 retrospective this past Sunday. And then Dude and I recorded our special Valentine's Day podcast yesterday, actually. It was last night we recorded it. So I got all 4 of those podcasts to edit. So that I got my work cut out for me. I haven't had much time to do any reading, any writing, any other thing. Like the new anime season has started, and I have no fucking idea what came out. Like I think My Hero Academia Vigilante season 2 came out. I'll be checking that out when I get the chance. There's a new rom com that I'm interested in. I don't remember what the title of it, but I remember the what the main character looks like. So I'm interested in checking that out. I always try to check out at least the first couple episodes of each rom com as they come out, because I that's my favorite like anime genre basically. But I did sit down and watch Why Dinosaurs. Why Dinosaurs is a documentary. It actually came out in 2024, but it only ever hit like the film festival circuit. I got a couple of rewards for like best documentary of the evening and stuff. So it was very well beloved, very well received within those film school crowds. But they finally did a full release just a couple days ago. It was 3 days ago. They did a full release on YouTube. So you can actually go and watch it now. In fact, I should have put a link in the description. In fact, I'm going to do that now. Can I? Am I allowed to? Stream settings. Stream health. Viewer activity. No. I don't know how to do that while I'm in the middle of, I don't know if I can. I'll do it later. But yeah, you could go and watch My Dinosaurs now. It's an hour 17 minutes. And it's alright. It's pretty good. This is one of those situations. I kind of talked about this. I know I've talked about this. I don't know if I talked about this while just playing Jurassic World Evolution, or if I talked about this when I did Walking with Dinosaurs a few months ago. I did a whole thing talking about Walking with Dinosaurs for the live show. Or if it was in my own Why Dinosaurs Are Cool video. But I do know that I talked about it, where I actually have a hard time discerning what dinosaurs are and aren't popular and how much the layman knows about dinosaurs because I've spent my entire life consuming Paleomedia and like reading these papers and watching these commentaries and documentaries and stuff. Uh, I actually wanted to be a paleontologist for the longest time growing up. I ended up not because is health a lot of it was health reason. A lot of it was like man, I would not, I don't have the physical ability to be out in the desert, 12 hours a day digging up bones, doing try all that. I can't do the delicate work. I wouldn't be able to do the delicate work. I'm too much of a klutz. It would also just cost a lot of money going through the school and colleges and all that money, and then no profit because paleontology is not a profitable field, which is one of the things I like about it. I'll get to that later. But this was made by a YouTuber, and it's there's a bit of industry plant smell from this documentary. Honestly, the YouTuber, he's a college student, and he's going into like one of the sciences, and good on him. Uh, and his dad's a filmmaker, and that's where like, oh, is this like an insider trading type thing? Are you only getting rewards because your daddy is special? I looked him up. He hasn't done anything that I know. He's worked on a couple other like one or two other documentaries. Like he's not even, like he's certainly not well known. When I looked him up on IMDb, it was like this and one other thing that popped up. So I don't even know how much of a filmmaker he can claim to be. But I do know that this has a lot of the usual suspects of PBS. PBS, which that I kind of always smell bullshit when PBS gets involved in this sort of thing, because they run a lot of YouTube channels, and they are all like very heavily monetized, very heavy, like, I can't say corporate because PBS is technically public broadcasting, but that kind of makes it worse because it's government funded, it's taxpayer funded stuff. So I kind of get a whiff of bullshit whenever PBS gets involved in documentaries. Uh, and I'll get to why later. And this, sadly, it does fall into a lot of the same pitfalls in the last stretch that a lot of these paleo documentaries, especially ones by PBS, fall into in the last 10 minutes. And it's always the last 10 minutes. It's always the last bit. It's always like and one more thing, here's some propaganda. Like, they can't just let it be pure and fun and interesting. They have to fucking ruin it. Every time. Uh, Sorry, I got wipe my nose. Uh, I always make this disclaimer, even though I also assume that everyone who watches my live show already knows who I am and what I'm about. Um, but I always make this disclaimer just in case anyone's new here, anyone like just saw this on their recommended feed or for you feed, whatever it's called on YouTube. Like, oh hey, the white dinosaurs. I know that. I want to see what this guy thinks of it. Um, just in case. I have a nasal polyps in my nose. I have for years, and it makes me have to blow my nose every like 5 minutes, and that time span shortens the more I talk. Um, so I always have to have a box of tissues near me, like no matter what, like because it's a growth. It's like that big around, and it's inside my nose, and it causes all sorts of indigestion and stuff like that. Like it's very bad. Very I've had nasal and breathing problems my entire life. I almost died several times because of it. And the nasal polyps is just the the newest in a very long line of health issues that I've had to just deal with in my yeah. Until I get money to actually have it removed, I just have to suffer through it. Um. Anyway, so I've always loved dinosaurs. For as long as I remember, one of my earliest memories is actually watching Jurassic Park in my basement when I was a very, very young kid. And I remember having a bunch of dinosaur toys. Uh, my mom actually worked at Sinclair when I was a little kid. Sinclair is a gas station, and their logo is Brontosaurus or an Apatosaurus, depending on who you ask and when you're asking. Because that's a whole that the whole Apatosaurus Brontosaurus thing. That's an hour long podcast by itself. And I don't have any of the dates or names in front of me to be able to accurately relay that to you. Uh, but I remember I had duffel bags full of dinosaur toys. What I would later on call like Chinasaurs because they're all made in China and they're all like very horribly outdated, which is weird because China's kind of been on the forefront on a lot of paleontology stuff since the 70s. So I never understood like why. Where's the breakdown in communication there? Why do all the Chinese dinosaurs look like they were designed in the 1940s when China was for a while like 20 years ahead of America in terms of paleontology knowledge? I don't know. I'm also like just to show this. This is my shirt I got for my birthday 2 years ago. It was my 30th birthday. Sue, the famous Tyrannosaurus specimen, was on display at the St. Louis Science Center here, and I got tickets to go, or I was given tickets to go with my mom and my niece, and I got this shirt from the Science Center gift shop, uh, just to show some other stuff. I put a lot of it here. Hold on. Missing the most important one. Gathered up some of my paleo paraphernalia on my table here, just to kind of show it off and talk about it, just have because I'm having fun. This is my favorite piece. It's Al. It's an Allosaurus. I got this from a gift shop in Kansas City. One of their museums that they have there. Can't even remember the name of the museum. I went there visiting my sister and my nieces, and yeah, it's actually a fairly accurate Allosaurus. The mold is a little cheap. It's very clearly hollow, made in China. New Canada Education. 20 it's copyright 2017. I think I got this in 2017, 2018. So I've had this for a very, very long time. I've posted pictures of him on Twitter, all over my desk, all over my room, my basement. He gets around. He gets around the house a lot more than pretty much anything else I own. Uh, this I've had for about, I want to say, I've had this for almost 20 years. I actually have a couple of these. Actually, I have two. I had a lot more, but a couple of them have broken. They're just a little, like, I don't even know what it's made out of anymore. It's some kind of like mineral, but it's like cheap sandstone. The fossil isn't real, obviously. If so, this would be like millions of dollars I would be holding. But no, it's a recreation of it's a miniaturized recreation of Archaeopteryx. I also had one of Camarasaurus and Coelophysis, and I think I had like a Chasmosaurus as well at some point. I had a couple other ones. I'm trying to think. Velociraptor or Protoceratops. I think that was it. They also had a Stegosaurus one, but I don't think I ever got the Stegosaurus one. But they come in like these blocks of sand, like a dried like sand clay stuff. They then take these little wooden tools and you dig the fossil out and you get your brush. There's actually I never fully cleaned it, so it still has a lot of the sand residue on the back. So I never like bothered to put this underwater to get all the little nooks and crannies on the back out. It's just not important to me. Uh, but this is like I love this uh little Archaeopteryx. I got this one about 2 years ago. This is another Chinosaur made in China. It's a Spinosaurus. He's got a little articulated jaw. I got this from Walmart of all places. Walmart in Fenton, Missouri when I lived there. His little arms can articulate too. This was the first ever like quadrupedal Spinosaurus toy I had ever seen, so I knew I had to have it. Obviously, it's already outdated, even though I just got this like 2-3 years ago. Um, we now know that Spinosaurus had a much more paddle-like tail. Uh, this was not made for accuracy. It was part of like an action toy line. I can't remember, but it was like it was something. There's some kind of branding that was on it, on the box. His toe here has always been kind of warped. Cheap, cheap mold. Didn't harden right. Uh, it was like $10 at Walmart. This one, I'd be careful with this one. I have a lot more that I'm not going to show because they're very fragile. Like I have a 3D printed like Tyrannosaurus skull miniature on my shelf that I got for Christmas 2 years ago. This I just got for Christmas this year. And it's my second favorite dinosaur, Sinosauropteryx, in full color. This is one of the most like accurate reconstructions of a dinosaur we know of because Sinosauropteryx was actually kind of a breakthrough dinosaur because of it had preserved melanosomes. So we actually know that Sinosauropteryx really was this color. It had this kind of feathering. He also has a little articulated jaw. It's actually kind of little warped too. This was like $60, and I was a little disappointed because it's supposed to have like a stick that goes in here and attaches to a dragonfly. I had the dragonfly, but the stick wasn't in the box. It just wasn't. And Amazon, they fucked up. The box was all like bent up and stuff. Like, I almost wonder if the manufacturer or the company I bought it from lied, and that if this was like repackaged or something instead of mint condition. But it's not just the little knickknacks and stuff. I also have a bunch of books. Here's Raptor Red by paleontologist Robert T. Baker. It's a fictional book about raptor, a Utahraptor, living its life in Cretaceous North America. Surprisingly, I don't have Dinotopia, and I need to. I need to get Dinotopia. I need to get some Dinotopia books. That's been on my list. I do have all 7 volumes of Dinosaur Sanctuary. These are all the Dinosaur Sanctuary volumes that have been released in America so far. Though I think there's one coming out in like another month. I think Volume 8 is coming out soon. I made videos on this. It's a manga series by Itaro Kinoshita about a paleo zoo in Enoshima, Japan, that's fallen on hard times. And the main character, she is trying to... her name's Suzumi, and she's trying to like spark new life into this dinosaur sanctuary and inspire youths to patron the place. And she helps with like a bunch of the research, and it's very accurate. It's got incredible art. Volume 7 has Kaido, the theropod, the head of the theropod division, and an Allosaurus on the cover. Where's a good? Here's some of the art. So very accurate. Itaru Kinoshita did his homework, along with Dr. Fujiwara. Shinichi Fujiwara. He's the consultant on the series. This is another gift I got for Christmas. It's the Rise and Fall of Dinosaurs. I'm only like 2 pages in, so I'm not sure what all is going to be covered in this book. It's called A New History of the Lost Worlds by Steve Brusati. And it came out in the copyright date. (2018). Came out in 2018. So that's cool. Then I got this is Paleontology and Illustrated History by David Bainbridge. I did read this in its entirety. It's a history of paleontology. You know, it's not just dinosaurs. It's about the whole like science, the history of the science, going from like ancient times with people finding teeth and bones and creating mythologies off of them, all the way through like modern day with the radiology and modern computer science, recreating, even organs and stuff based on the most microscopic details of fossils. Got some great paleo art. People recreating like what the dinosaur would have actually looked like based on the posing of the fossil. Yeah, it's got a bunch of illustrations. And I have the always unfortunate, the complete book of dinosaurs. When I first got this, I basically was looking for like, what book can I find that has the most dinosaurs in it? Like the most named dinosaurs in it. Like, what's the most accurate one? And this is from 2019. And literally like the same year that this book was published, we got the new description of Dinosaurs. Dinosaurs is in this, but it's portrayed much more like the typical ornithomimid, like a gallimimus or a struthiomimus, not like the big awkward duck that we now know it was. So this is the paleontology is a fluid field. It's more of an art than a science sometimes. Things change all the time. And so these books are never, dated properly. In fact, if you get enough knowledge base on the history of paleontology, you can probably tell what year a book like this came out based on the reconstructions that they use. So, like the fact that this does have like the quadrupedal Spinosaurus, or the more actually it doesn't have quadrupedal Spinosaurus. It has this is Spinosaurus in it. So I would say that that's like pre-2020. Then I also have last book I'm going to show you. Again, I have more. I just have limited room on my table here. The Paleo Artist Handbook by Mark P. Whitten. I have not cracked this open much, but it does have one of my favorite quotes about paleo art. The ordinary public cannot learn much by merely gazing at skeletons set up in museums. One longs to cover their nakedness with flesh and skin, and to see them as they were when they walked this earth. That was Henry Ann Hutchinson, 1910. influential paleo artist from back in the day. I think Henry and Hutchinson. Is that who I think it was? Am I thinking of the right guy? Henry and Hutchinson. Yeah, he wrote books. He was like he wrote a lot of nonfiction books. I think I might have had one of his old books, back in the day. But yeah, he was a clergyman as well as a guy who wrote books on geology, paleontology, anthropology. I don't like it when people say that science and religion don't mix. So much of science was funded by religion. The church was always a powerful entity, always a rich entity, going all the way back to the Roman Empire, and they used that money to fund the leisures of science. So there are two types of paleo documentaries. Getting back to the task at hand, there are two types of paleo documentaries. There are those that are paleontologist based and those that are dinosaur based. The dinosaur based are the ones that you know more about. The ones that more people have seen. They're always the more popular ones, and it's because of the Hutchinson quote. We crave to see them as more than just skeletons or bones in the dirt. We we have this almost primordial urge to dress them in scales and feathers and fang and fur. When we're talking about mammal, fur. Like a woolly mammoth fossil is interesting, but what is more interesting is seeing a woolly mammoth as it would have been in life alongside early humans and saber-toothed tigers in the frozen north of the Ice Age Americas. Seeing, this guy, Allosaurus. I've seen several Allosaurus fossils. I went to the Children's Museum in Indianapolis a couple years ago, and they have an Allosaurus fossil there. Uh, and that was awesome. It was incredible. It was the first time I had seen an Allosaurus fossil up close like that, outside of like just pictures. Uh, but I will always prefer things like this and things like Walking with Dinosaurs, The Ballad of Big Al. I love seeing bone turn to flesh. So you're walking with the original Walking with Dinosaurs, Prehistoric Planet, uh, Monsters Resurrected. These are all dinosaur based documentaries. Whereas things like Dinosaur 13 or this one, Why Dinosaurs, are much more paleontologist based. It's much more about Giants of Patagonia was one that I loved when it came out because it kind of like opened my eyes to the Titanosaurs and what they were really like. Or what the science around them is really like. It didn't really show them much because it was a paleontologist based documentary. The problem with dinosaur based documentaries is that they lack the spontaneity of true nature docs. Nature documentaries are always really tough to edit, or at least I imagine they are really difficult to edit because you have to take thousands and thousands of hours of drone footage of all these animals in their natural habitat waiting for like something to happen that you can spin into like an interesting narrative. A lot of early documentaries got a lot of flack later on for like the lemmings sequence in what the fuck was the name of that documentary? Documentary. It was a Disney doc. Disney prove lemmings off the cliff. Uh, White Wilderness. White Wilderness was a Disney produced documentary from the 1950s, 1958. Uh, and they kind of portrayed lemmings as being this like dumb animal uh, that can't that has like no self-preservation instincts, and they'll just like throw themselves off of cliffs. That's because the documentary filmmakers ran them off the cliffs, and then they just deceptively edited that in order to like create a narrative. The first Secret World by Jacques Cousteau got a lot of flack years later for using dynamite. They would bomb the seafloor in order to like get the fish to come out so that they can film them. Uh, Animals are spontaneous. They don't do what you want them to do when you want them to do it. You have to kind of like be patient with them and work around them, or just like film them and try to use what you get. Whereas with dinosaur based documentaries, when you're actually like drawing the dinosaurs or generating the dinosaurs using CGI, you can make them do whatever you want, and it loses a lot of that luster because it's all fake, it's all phony. It's like pro wrestling versus real wrestling. Just Walking with Dinosaurs is nature documentary WWE, but Planet Earth is uh, the Olympics. Is the comparison I'm making there. Knows so and that was actually one of my big problems with the recent Walking with Dinosaurs remake, is that I didn't have any of those like interactions that, while scripted, created the illusion of that spontaneity. There's in the original Walking with Dinosaurs, which I would still say is the best paleo documentary out there, even if it's inaccurate by today's standards, and even if some of the dinosaur models are horribly inaccurate, or even inaccurate for that time. The bobblehead T Rex was always kind of weird looking. It still has those like interactions, like the little the baby tyrannosaurs bumping into the camera, or the camera like fogging up in scenes. Like Prehistoric Planet does a little bit of that, but it doesn't do it as much as the original Walking with Dinosaurs did. And the new Walking with Dinosaurs doesn't do it at all. Really, it's just all very clearly CGI animation. There's none of that like thing to ground it. Like Walking with Dinosaurs had a lot of practical effects. Had a lot of people that would actually like get on these padded shoes and jump into the water and splash it around, and then they would add the dinosaurs into that in post. Like a lot of techniques were used in Walking with Dinosaurs to like make the dinosaurs feel real, even though they weren't. And then the problem with paleontologist based documentaries is that kids don't care. Kids care much less about the scientists than they do the science itself. This is why, like, a lot of kids my age, a lot of people my age when they were kids, their favorite scientist was Bill Nye the Science Guy, who isn't even a real scientist. He has a bachelor's degree in like education or something. Uh, like he's not, he doesn't have a real doctor. He's not a real scientist. I don't even recall if he has a master's degree, let alone a doctorate. Like Dolph Lundgren has a doctorate. Just to kind of put a little spin on that. Brian May, the guitarist of Queen, has a doctorate. They are more qualified to opine on these things than Bill Nye the Science Guy. But Bill Nye the Science Guy made education fun. He made learning fun, but in a very PBS way. And he kind of went off his rocker in the past decade. Uh, Yeah, I always need something to do with my hands, and sorry, Owl is now my plaything again. Yeah, kids just aren't as interested in that. Even as a kid, like I knew about Barnum Brown, I knew about Cope and Marsh, and I knew about. I think I knew about Lindell, the guy who described Iguanodon. I'm pretty sure I knew about him from an early age, but that was basically it. You know, it was the Bone Wars guy and the guy who discovered T Rex. Like those were the only paleontologists I knew about or cared about. Not until later that I knew about like Ashmoshka and Ostrom and Robert Baker and Jack Horner and all these other guys. William Buckland. Who's the Argentina guy? Um, I should know his name by heart like I do the other guys, but I don't. Shoot. Wrong thing. It's this one. Oh, where is it? Dreadnoughtus. He discovered Dreadnoughtus, right? No. Bonaparte. Jose Fernando Bonaparte. He's the Argentina guy. He's obviously very French. He's a French scientist, but he did a lot of work in Argentina. He's the guy who described Carnotaurus back in the 80s, and he's also, I believe, responsible for like getting Argentinosaurus, maybe like a lot of other dinosaurs from the Patagonia region. No, I didn't know about him until later on in life. Ernst Stromer, the German Ernst Frieder Stromer von Reichenbach, who I believe discovered Spinosaurus as well. Yeah, he just well, maybe not discovered, but described. There's a difference between discovering and describing. The person who does the description gets to pick the name, and they get to kind of like take credit for the information that comes out of the fossil because they're the ones who are doing the research on it. But the people who discover it, they tend to be either amateur fossil hunters who are kind of going out of their way to like look in places where fossils are likely to pop up, or just construction workers, miners, farmers, tilling the ground, just happening upon this stuff. And then they call in the paleontologists who have their teams excavate and prepare the fossil and preserve it. And then they take it to the lab, to these museums and stuff to do the research on it and just analyze it and try to figure out if it's a new genus or not. Sorry, I gotta do this. Hate it. I hate it. I hate it. Hate it. Hate it. Hate it. I hate my body. I hate my nose. Wish I could just freaking chop it off and be done with it. Uh, but this interest kids are more interested in the dinosaurs. They're more interested in the mammoths and mastodons and dimetrodons and the tyrannosaurs and velociraptors of this world. They're way more interested in Utahraptor than they are in Robert Baker. They're way more interested in Tyrannosaurus than Barnum Brown. They're way more interested in Megalosaurus than William Buckland. No, they're way more interested in Allosaurus than Cope or Marsh. They're more interested in Iguanodon than Gideon Mantell. Can't believe I'm such a weird dork. I can't believe that I knew Ashmoshka's name, but not fucking Bonaparte's. Dinosaurs is my third favorite dinosaur, and Ashmoshka was the guy who described Dinosaurs. So, It is what it is. I can't really control the things you love. But paleontology has its origins in the Age of Enlightenment, and this is a time when science was a leisure. Like, yeah, you'd have people who could like benefit from science, particularly like physics and chemistry, uh, and later on like biology, leading to medical breakthroughs. But back in the day, a lot of the science was just for the sake of itself. It was science for science sake. This was a time when having a massive library was considered a status symbol. Nowadays, having a library just makes you a dork or a nerd. And I don't even have that much I don't even have that impressive of a library. I maybe have like 200, 300 books. Like, I've seen people who have thousands. And that's high. I'm highballing there. Like, I haven't actually done a count on how many books I own. That'd be something I could might do that just for the hell of it. Uh, but yeah, libraries used to be a status symbol. Uh, Science would be funded by people out of the just their own personal interest, their own like just personal intrigue. Like you'd have Carnegie, who was like a massive like railroad tycoon and oil baron. Like I might be conflating Carnegie with like five people all at once. Yeah, Andrew Carnegie. He was an industrialist. He's a steel guy. He was a steel industry. He was in the steel industry, and he was super rich, super famous. And he'd just build libraries just to fucking have his name on something, just for the hell of it. And that was a lot purer science than what we get a lot now. Because so much of science nowadays is government funded, it's taxpayer funded. And when you are beholden to the taxpayer, you are beholden to the interests of the people collecting taxes. I'll get a little more on that later. But yeah, science used to just be for science sake. It used to just be like curiosity, just something to entertain the guests. Weave tales of these men and these monsters and these rocks and these cataclysms for the earth science or geologists would talk about like the cataclysms and the processes, and it would just be to fill conversation at dinner. Just something to talk about. History, say they were like history and literature, like people used to just consume knowledge and consume fiction and consume science and maths and stuff just for their own personal enjoyment. And we were a lot smarter species back then. We've learned a lot since the 1800s, but we've also gotten so much dumber so many different ways because so much of that wisdom is no longer earned. And so many people will like just learn things in order to try to like get a one up on the people that they don't like, just to try to dunk on people. It's just much less pure than it used to be. Or I fucking sound like an old man. Or back in my day, people actually used to love dinosaurs for itself. Fucking becoming an old man yelling at cloud. 32 years old. I'm turning 33 this year. But one thing that why dinosaurs got into a lot that I really appreciate is something I never really thought of that much, is that paleontology is kind of a gateway science because it's kind of an intersection between two things kids love, which is fantasy and animals. Dinosaurs are unlike, and I said this in my video on the same subject, that like part of the mystique of dinosaurs is that they were real, but they don't feel real. Like with animals are awesome. Like I love zoos. Like I love going to the zoo. I love going on nature walks. I love wildlife preserves. We have like 17 of them here in Missouri. I love the safari zoos. I love animal theme parks. I love animal like themed cafes, rainforest cafes. Uh, I love all that stuff. I love watching nature documentaries. And my nature documentaries are one of the things that we will just throw on upstairs just to have play in the background as we just go about our day. Uh, but with animals, there's no like speculation. You can just go out and watch them. You can just look them up on YouTube and watch videos on bears and tigers and crocodiles, birds. I love birds. Uh, Whereas something like fantasy, it's just all made up bullshit. Like you don't have to think about how it would really react in the real world. You just make shit up. Dinosaurs are neither of those. They have the strength. They have the best of both worlds because they really existed, but they don't seem like anything that really exists. And this is also why dinosaurs are so much more popular than your mammoths, your Cenozoic animals, or your Paleolithic your Paleozoic animals like your Dimetrodons, your trilobites, your Dunkleosteus. Dinosaurs don't fit into any box well. Like they are technically birds, but they're not. They're reptiles, but they're warm blooded, most likely. They are simultaneously related to crocodiles and to avians, and that's a bizarre combination. When you look at birds and you look at crocodiles, you don't think of them as being closely related. But dinosaurs prove that they are. That's interesting. That's fascinating. That's different than anything else that lives today. Closest thing we get to that is like salamanders and newts being lizard like amphibians, tadpoles being fish like amphibians. Lungfish are cool because they're fish that can breathe land, but they're also kind of lame. But yeah, that's what like sparks the imagination. You know, the fact that we don't know exactly what dinosaurs look like. We just know that they existed. So we have to think about like, okay, how did they walk about? How did they move? You know, how did they support their massive body weight? What did they eat? What did they drink? Obviously, they drank water, but like, what was that water like? What was their environment like? Did they live in deserts? Did they live entirely in jungles? They lived, as we found out, they lived in all sorts of environments. We even discovered that there would have been snow back then. Like the climate wasn't completely tropical. You also had some Arctic climates, and dinosaurs would have lived there too. You know, up in the mountains, you would have had like Utyrannus in the Chinese mountains. You know, back then, like it's all like when you enter when you cross the line into having to do speculative biology, it makes it so much more fascinating, especially to little kids who are all about imagination. And so, like, yeah, a lot of people who grow up playing with dinosaur toys and watching these paleo documentaries and watching like Walking with Dinosaurs and Jurassic Park and stuff, they do tend to be more interested in the sciences and tend to like make contributions therein, even if it's not paleontology. You know, a lot of people go into medical fields or biomechanics or chemistry, geology, which can all have their own benefits. But speak more on the science for profit and political gain. I believe it is a corrupt perversion that has tried to lay claim to paleontology. And this is where I have to address my biggest complaint with White Dinosaurs. White Dinosaurs has a lot of experts. Has a lot of people from across the spectrum. Has the Dinosaur podcast guys. Has the Dino Geek. He's a collector who has like a bunch of dinosaur toys and memorabilia from various movies, museums, everything you can imagine. Uh, it has, you know, professional paleontologists, filmmakers. Colin Trevorrow's on the documentary. Dr. Scott from Dinosaur Train. He's a real scientist. He was just the dinosaur consultant on Dinosaur Train, but that's where I fucking know him, and I don't know why that's where I know him. I was way too old when that show came out, but it's something my nephew and niece like. So I watched a bunch of episodes with them, and it's one of those shows where, like, it's a Land Before Time base or whatever. It is Dinosaur Train, a bunch of in cartoon dinosaurs riding on a train. But then at the end of each episode, you'd have Dr. Scott, who would come in and, teach you real facts about the dinosaurs that inspired the show, and that's really neat. It's also very 90s. Like, this show came out in, like, the 2010s, and it has a very 90s feel to it. That might be why I was kind of weirdly into it a couple of years ago. Last month. And it's got the Eons people. Like, I watch PBS Eons. Like, I've been subscribed to them since they have been a thing. It's kind of where a lot of my grievances from PBS towards PBS have actually kind of come from, because of the way some of the PBS Eons episodes are structured. There's a lot to be desired for me. It's got that. It's got Phil Tippett, who is the dinosaur consultant, or one of the people who worked on Jurassic Park. Not the dinosaur consultant. That would have been Jack Horner. But Phil Tippett, he helped, like, build the puppets. It's got a dinosaur cosplayer in it who, like, builds dinosaur suits that try to be, like, more anatomically correct. It's like, that's fucking awesome. Like, this has a very eclectic group of people. But then at the end, they all say the same thing, which is that science is important and paleontology is important because climate change and vaccines and saving the planet, we have to study the planet and realize that, like, if we're causing climate change, then we're the climate solution too, and this is a call to action to write your congressman and blah 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 blah. It's like, okay, I see. Every fucking time. It's always in the last 10 minutes. They always make it about climate change. They always make it about how we're destroying the planet and we're going to go extinct just like the dinosaurs did. Like, no. I don't actually see us going extinct for one reason and one reason alone. We are the first species in the history of this planet to be able to create our own environment. Dinosaurs weren't able to do that. Dinosaurs weren't able to use tools. Dinosaurs weren't able to, like, build houses. They weren't able to, like, build air conditioning to get away from the heat and central cooling to get central heating to get away from the cold. They weren't able to harvest fire and electricity. Like, yes, history repeats itself. Yes, things change all the time. And yes, we should brace for that. I do believe in climate change. I do believe that climate change is inevitable. But, like, there comes a point where the game's changed. Where, like, you're not going to get rid of us. Like, sharks have survived every extinction event since the Devonian period. They ain't going anywhere. I don't think we are either. I think we're too... Maybe I'm just arrogant. Maybe I'm just human supremacist arrogant that I think that worrying about that stuff is a waste of time and money. Mostly money. Because you'll notice that the people who preach, like, climate hysteria never have any actual legit solutions. Like, it was environmental activists that killed nuclear power back in the 90s. Oh, lo and behold, nuclear power might actually be the most environmentally friendly and efficient fuel system that we've ever developed, but, because Chernobyl happened, we can't have anything good in this life, because the Russians fucked it up. Because the communists fucked it up. Notice they never blamed the communists for Chernobyl. It's all about, like, oh, we have to hand all of our, power over to the government and have them maintain things. And, all we do about China is a firm finger waggling. Just like I said when I on the political section of this live show. Like, there's international law might as well not exist because no one's fucking enforcing it. No, when the law isn't being enforced, laws aren't preventative. There ain't a single law of God or man that has prevented anyone from doing anything. The only thing the law is good for is punishing the people who break the law. And if you're not going to punish people for breaking the law might as well not exist. You can't say, hey, China, you should cut down your carbon emissions or else, and then not have the or else play through when they don't cut their carbon emissions. Like, America has done more to cut down their carbon emissions than any other country on the planet over the past 15 years. We've done more. We've destroyed entire states' economies. We've destroyed Pennsylvania and Minnesota and Michigan and Wisconsin. We destroyed them so much that they used to be hardcore blue states, and now Wisconsin is red, Michigan and Pennsylvania are swing states, and Minnesota is becoming a swing state. Minnesota might be going red in the next election. But that's actually more because of the fraud thing than the economy thing. Whatever. But, like, Trump did better in Minnesota than any other Republican candidate has in, like, 200 years. Or, not 200 years. Nixon won Minnesota. But he was the first person since, like, Nixon to get over, like, 40% of the vote in Minnesota or something. It was something like that. Like, he got pretty close to actually, like, turning the state a little purplish in 2024. And, like, when are these people going to learn that their actions have consequences? And that their lies have consequences? And that their propaganda has consequences? They bring up vaccines in this documentary. They bring up vaccines and why dinosaurs. Hey, guys, you want to know why people are so kind of, like, weird about vaccines? It's because everyone has seen one of those infomercials. If you or a loved one have experienced this and that side effect from taking this and that medication, this and that time, you may be due to compensation. But we don't want compensation. We want to be healthy. We don't want to have that compensation. That's why people are untrusting of new vaccines. Black people especially, like the African American community, has a very real fear of vaccines that is very really valid. Because the U.S. government was literally experimenting on them in the 1940s. We were literally injecting them with syphilis just to see what would happen. Your actions have consequences. Because of that, we have entire generations of black people, or African Americans specifically, that don't trust the government and don't trust when the government comes out with a new vaccine because, like, oh, is this another Tuskegee Airmen situation? Like, is this really going to benefit me, or is this another syphilis trial thing? The trust there was lost in the 1940s, and the trust with vaccines in general broke in 2020 when we went from like 2 weeks to stop the spread to 2 years of lockdowns, destroying the economy. Can't say goodbye to grandma; she's on her deathbed. Can't go to church. Can't have weddings. My sister and her husband had to have 2 different weddings because they had, like, the legal wedding that they had planned for months and months in advance, but then couldn't have it because of lockdown. So they just had, like, they just signed, like, the marriage certificate in the courthouse and stuff. And then they had their actual, like, wedding reception several months later when St. Charles County opened up. Like, they were literally, like, what is within driving distance where we could actually have a wedding, even if it's not where we initially wanted it. Like, they had to do that because of the lockdown stuff. And the lockdowns didn't even work. Millions died because of COVID. And that's saying a lot because it had like a 99% survival rate. Like, it only had like a 1% fatality rate. But millions still died because everyone got it. So lockdowns didn't work. The vaccines didn't work because even people who got the vaccines still got COVID afterwards. Even when they got, like, all the boosters that were ever recommended, they would still get COVID. I got COVID once. I did not get vaccinated because I got COVID before the vaccine came out, and I have a strong enough immune system just from being perpetually sick Yeah, I'm kind of like a Mr. Burns situation where like all my health problems are in perfect sync at all times. To where like I get sick like once a year. I get like actually sick once a year. So after I did get COVID, I got COVID before the vaccine came out. Uh, and I never got COVID again. I never, in fact, I got COVID in 2020, 2021, 2020, 2021, late 2020, early 2021, somewhere in that ballpark. It was November, I know that. So it might have been late 2021. Because I was in Fenton at the time. Vaccine might have been out then. My point is that I've only been sick twice since then. No, in all those years later, I've only been sick twice. Once was last year when I got influenza and was sick for like 2 weeks, and the other time was when I had a fever due to the spider bite on my wrist that I really should have went to the hospital for and didn't. But like I actually got a scar from it here, but it was like swollen up to like here, a big massive spider bite. And I had a fever from it. Those are the only two times I've been sick since getting COVID. Nasal polyps issues notwithstanding. I don't count that as being sick because that's a chronic thing. Uh but yeah, like paleontology is not a science that benefits society. It's not like chemistry or biology where we can have like medical breakthroughs or engineering breakthroughs or technological breakthroughs, telecommunications breakthroughs, making life easier and more efficient for people, or raising the standard of living for third world countries. Paleontology isn't going to do any of that. Paleontology is much more pure. It's not glorious, it's not lucrative. It is a science that survives and thrives due to the just inherent interest in the subject matter. The more you try to like push as like the super important thing, the more you end up corrupting it. Like, to anyone who wants to get into paleontology, you have to realize you're not going to make a lot of money from it. You're just not. Like, there are a lot of paleontologists who are just out of work for one reason or another, or have to get other jobs elsewhere. Even back in the day, like I said, like the guy talked about that had the quote I read, Hutchinson. He was a clergyman by trade. He was a clergyman first and foremost. No, Robert Baker, another famous paleontologist. He's the guy who described Utahraptor. Yes, I think he was on the Utahraptor team. I know that. But he supplemented his income by writing books. Same thing with Mark P. Whitten. Mark P. Whitten is a paleo artist, and he wrote the Paleo Artist Handbook in order to like spread his knowledge to other people in a way that gives him supplementary income, not a stable income, not something you could live off of, really. I would think. I don't know. I doubt the book has sold that much. You have to sell millions of copies to make a living as an author. I know that from experience. I've sold a couple hundred copies of my own books, and I maybe made like $400-$500 off of them total. I get like a couple bucks per sale. You could always like make movies or make books to supplement your income, but like that's not a stable livelihood. But yeah, like I remember it was a paleontologist on Joe Rogan. I can't remember who it was. I remember what he looks like. I remember I've seen him in other paleo documentaries. He was talking about how like he gets all of his work from construction crews. Like construction crews will be like digging up dirt in order to lay a foundation. They'll find a fossil and then they'll call him, and he'll make a quick buck off of that. But he makes most of his money doing podcasts and appearing in documentaries and being like a museum curator. And museums only exist due to the patronage of the people who go there, due to the interest of the people who go there. And sometimes that's government funded, but sometimes it's gotta be AI. Yeah. Okay. So I saw something that I was like, oh wait, did they actually drop that? Then I saw like one shot, like, nope, that's gotta be AI. But it's hard to tell with movies. It was a Legends of Zelda thing. It's hard to tell nowadays because so many movies look like such fucking dog shit nowadays, like Wicked for Good or the Snow White remake, just to name a few. They look like such dog shit nowadays that I can't tell if it's uh, AI or just meant to look like AI. But yeah, that's actually kind of all I wanted to talk about. Uh, I liked how why dinosaurs got into like the nitty gritty of like what the paleontology process is like, and some of the other things like it talked about the kid from Arizona. I think his name is like Jax, who he's a dinosaur enthusiast. He was like 12 years old at the time, so he's probably like 15 now. Uh, that he read that California had just gotten their state dinosaur. Um, and he was like, "Does Arizona?" He lives in Arizona. He was like, "Does Arizona have a state dinosaur?" Oh, it doesn't. I should like petition my governor to make a state dinosaur. And so Arizona's state dinosaur is Sonorosaurus. Uh, like that's a cool story, and that's a cool story about like um about science communication. Science communication is very important, especially when it comes to like something like paleontology, something that has innate appeal to kids. We should be teaching them accurate information at the very least, and being able to like because paleontology is equal parts geology and biology. Geology is like pretty, I would say, basic science. Uh, Biology is very fucked. Um, where it's like geology would be in the middle, biology would be on one extreme, something like astronomy would be on the opposite extreme. What are some things in astronomy called? Stars, planets, dark matter, comets, black holes, supernova. What are some things in biology called? Uh, Deoxyribonucleic acid. Uh, I, I'm just looking up like glossary of biology terms. Acetyl CoA, acetalmate, adenine, anaerobic. I'm literally just scrolling through some of these just to kind of give you a basic. A binomial nomenclature. The biomechanics. People can probably figure that one out. But there's a whole meme of like astronomy names something black hole, biology names something deoxyribonucleic acid. Like biology is a very tough science to actually like get into because there's so much like nomenclature surrounding biology that's so convoluted and so long. Like I believe longest word in English. Yeah, the longest word in English is a biology term. It's a pneumono or pneumono no ultra microscopic silico volcanoconiosis. It's 45 letters, and it's a lung disease. Like, I would have to practice that. I would have to spend an entire hour practicing that. Another long word is 30 letters. Hypoparathyroidism. Hypoparathyroidism. It's a medical condition affecting the thyroid. Biologists just love to make things complicated. And, there's a lot that's been said within the paleo Twitter community over the past couple months about how, dinosaurs don't have simple names. Like, when you look at extant animals that exist, it's like birds, ostrich, lizard, Komodo dragon, crocodile, elephant, rhino, tiger, bear, polar bear, black bear, brown bear, grizzly bear. With dinosaurs, it's like Chasmosaurus, Stegosaurus, Gigantospinosaurus, Sinosauropteryx, Archaeopteryx, Geostorbergia, Mosasaurus, Archelon, Spinosaurus, Allosaurus, Parasaurolophus, Saurolophus. Parasaurolophus and Saurolophus, while both hadrosaurs, aren't actually closely related. Longest dinosaur name. Micropachycephalosaurus is the longest dinosaur name. But all dinosaur names or most dinosaur names are a bit of a mouthful compared to extant animals. And that's the biologists seeping into the paleontology field. And then you have the actual scientific names, and this is true of all animals. I'm not big on the scientific names of extant animals or even dinosaurs for that matter, but I do have some written down here. But lion is Panthera leo, tiger is Panthera tigris, human is Homo sapien. You have for dinosaurs, you have Brachiosaurus altathorax, Spinosaurus aegypticus, Compsognathus longpipes, Dinochirus mirificus, Deinonychus antheropus, and Montosaurus regalis. Looking for some other famous ones. Velociraptor mongoliensis, Triceratops horridus, Tarbosaurus bataar or Beatar, which is actually one of my favorites. Tyrannosaurus rex. Everyone knows Tyrannosaurus rex for some reason. T-Rex. For a long time, I knew Tyrannosaurus rex, and then I knew Spinosaurus aegypticus because of Jurassic Park 3. A lot of the other ones I had to find out through just my own independent research. Cerodactylus atrox is a good one. Acrocanthosaurus atachensis is another one I really like. That one kind of rolls off the tongue. Attenborosaurus conaberi, named after William Conabere and David Attenborough. A lot of Latin. A lot of Latin, a little bit of Greek, a little bit of other things too. Beatar, Tarbosaurus Batar is actually named for a mispronunciation or a misunderstanding of a Mongolian word. But that's why Land Before Time was like long neck, three horn, duckbill, spike, a flyer, Sharp tooth. Swimming sharp tooth. Clubtail. Mr. Clubtail was a character in Land Before Time. Because those words are just easier to understand than the Parasaurolophus or Micropachycephalosaurus. Regnatus scrawny. Uh, but yeah, I love the science communication aspect of this documentary. Again, PBS Eons is always good about that. PBS is usually good about that when they're not spinning outright propaganda, or I guess even when they are. But also maybe one of curious, like, does Missouri have a state dinosaur? I know we have a state fossil, crinoids. I looked it up. We do. It's Parasaurus missouriensis. It's it's a hadrosaur. It looks a bit like a Edmontosaurus. Looks a bit of a basic bitch ass hadrosaur. I'll pull up my display so you can see it. There it is. An illustration of it. So size comparison. Well, that's not Parasaurus, but I think that's about the right size. Yeah, about 39 feet tall. But massive Edmontosaurus like hadrosaur is our state dinosaur, but that is different from our state fossil, which is the crinoid. Crinoids are little sea urchins. Missouri spent most of its geologic history underwater, so crinoid is actually a better suit for a state fossil. During a large chunk of the Cretaceous, we were actually the coastline of the inland Cretaceous Sea. But yeah, this is a crinoid. This is our state fossil, or at least it was when I was growing up. Is it still our state fossil? Might have changed. Nope, it's still our state fossil. According to the AI overview. Hopefully that's accurate. Fucking hate AI. Yeah, here's my little dinosaur list. The little dinosaur fun facts, alphabetically. You weren't meant to see that. Well, we're rolling with it. So we're doing it live. This is a live show. Media's live show, episode 32. I've been going an hour and a half. I just want to talk more about dinosaurs. In Paleomedia. I wish the documentary got more into the history of Paleomedia. Because, like, they mention King Kong and the Jurassic Park franchise, but they don't mention Gertie the dinosaur, the first dinosaur movie, or The Lost World, which is way more influential than King Kong. Yeah, they only mention like King Kong and Jurassic Park, and that's it. No Dinotopia, no. They do mention Land of the Lost, and it's a very dorky looking Tyrannosaur. Yeah, that was a fun part. I always get interested in like some of the more recent breakthroughs, even if it is a lot of stuff that I already know, like the melanosomes determining dinosaur color. The story of they do the story of like Borea pelta from a couple years ago and how that was discovered and the whole process that went into describing that. Uh, they also do the Spinosaurus story, how we found out about its tail a couple years ago. Yeah, they very briefly go over The chapter is called Dino Schlock. They do mention like 1 million BC and Valley of Guanji. Valley of Guanji is a movie that I would not mind doing like a video watching through. Because I think I have it. I think I have a digital copy of it on my computer. I know I have Lost World. I've been meaning to do something with Lost World for many months now. Uh, Yeah, I wish someone would make a documentary on like the history of paleontology. Get more into the nitty gritty there. Something like the book I showed earlier, the Paleontology and Illustrated History. Like they do talk about what's her name? Person who discovered Ichthyosaurus. Mary Anning. Like they do talk about Mary Anning. They do mention the Bone Wars, Cope and Marsh. They do mention they actually do mention Robert Baker. But I think that's because he like they had actually met him. The person who made the documentary actually like met him at some point. Which is cool. Robert Baker always seems to be like a really chill dude. Uh, he was the basis for the dinosaur guy and Jurassic Park: The Lost World, the one with the long beard and the cowboy hat, who got eaten by the T Rex in the waterfall. Like that guy was based on Robert Baker, and Alan Grant was based on Jack Horner, and they were kind of like intellectual rivals throughout the '90s. And for whatever reason, Michael Crichton liked Jack Horner more. But that's actually gonna do it for me. I don't have any other notes. I go why dinosaurs like an 8 out of 10. It's fine. They did kind of ruin it with the propaganda stuff in the last stretch, but it's still a fine functioning documentary. My actual biggest problem with it is that I don't really know who it's for. This goes back to something I said at the start of the stream, where like I have a hard time judging how much the layman knows because none of this was new to me. Like all of this stuff was stuff I had already heard, and I'm not sure how interested people would be in learning about it through here. I feel like most of the people who are interested in this stuff would also know as much as I do. Like I'm not an expert, I'm just an enthusiast. Uh a lifelong enthusiast. A 32-year-old lifelong enthusiast. So I just have a hard time judging that, and it doesn't seem like it would be interesting to kids. Like that's my main thing. I don't think kids are going to be very interested in this documentary, compared to like the 20-year-old dinosaur enthusiasts. You know, people who might not know as much as I do might learn something here. And again, I just wish they went more into like maybe the history of paleontology or the history of Paleomedia instead of just talking about Jurassic Park. Like I love Jurassic Park. Jurassic Park's one of my favorite movies, but like there are other dinosaur movies, guys. But yeah, that's gonna do it for me. Thank you all for watching. This next week, I plan on watching a lot more anime, so I'll have kind of a seasonal. Like I'll be going into the winter 2026 season next week, and I'll be relaying that to you all. Thank you all for joining me. We had a lot of viewers, but not anyone in the chat. Makes me wonder if people were really just wanting to hear me ramble about dinosaurs and not distract me or whatever with the random nonsense that chat throws at me whenever the usual suspects are here.